Before we take questions, I want to thank each and every person who's been a part of this work. A lot of time and energy has gone into this, and it has not been easy. But I truly believe that it will result in changes for the better. For our officers, for our department as a whole, our residents, and the entire city of Akron. With that, we'll take your questions.
Mayor, what surprised you in the report?
I don't know that there's one thing that jumps out at me. I mentioned before kind of the focus on the Graham B. Connor standard and kind of this idea that, you know, it need not be a ceiling, but could be a floor. I think that, you know, it's as people digest it, I think you can tell how much effort and thought went into it. I thought that particularly one thing that's really resonated with me, another thing, is the importance of the first line supervisors, the sergeants, and the importance of making sure that they have the time to be able to supervise officers, right? And especially those officers who, as our cadets are coming out, we have our field training officers, and you know, that's an additional duty that they're taking on, making sure that our sergeants are able to spend as much time doing that work instead of paperwork back at the station. That's something that has really resonated with me. Going back, you know, years, I've heard people say that that's the most important role in the department, those first line supervisors, and I think this kind of highlighted that.
So you briefly talked about an implementation team, but I'm curious, what's the agency or body that is analyzing whether the recommendations are being met actively?
Absolutely. So I think a couple things here. I think Chief Chief Harding and Chief of Safety Craig Morgan can talk a little bit about the implementation team, which includes folks from the police department, across the department, as well as from law and HR. Separately, obviously, we have an independent police auditor's office, right? And I think you know, we've engaged that office and the board as key stakeholders during this process. And I think part of this is that we will transparently share monthly the status of all the recommendations, right? And so even before a recommendation is complete, we'll share what action steps we have taken, right? And update that monthly. And I think that's a clear commitment to transparency. We didn't want this to be something where we take it in and we say, we'll get back to you in a couple months about what we're gonna implement and what our responses are. We wanted to move with deliberation on this. But the second piece of it is that it will also be for the independent auditor's office and the oversight board to also independently share their judgments about how we're implementing this. And that's a key part of them being independent, is that they are separate and apart, and at an arm's length can offer their judgments themselves as well. Bob?
Dave, it's okay.
Sorry, Dave.
That's all right. Mayor,
Bob's usually sitting there.
yeah, I know. Well,
Bob's at 6 there.
Bob
Yeah,
is usually
yeah.
here too, so.
Yeah.
Hey, I have two questions, Mayor, sorry. One, you mentioned that some of this may involve union contracts. I noticed that the report made a point to say about in the review process of use of force policies of individuals of officers involved in use of force policies, that the exceedingly low rate of out-of-policy findings, and said that even if every one of these findings was entirely legitimate, the appearance of near unanimous in-policy findings creates its own credibility problem. It looks as if the outcomes were preordained, and that is because the reviewers and the officers are represented by the same union. Is that something that, I noticed the union isn't represented here but in this discussion today, but is that something that is on your
Yes. So as I've said, it is our intent to implement all of the recommendations, right? Now, certainly, I want to be clear, right, that I have respect for the work that our officers within internal affairs do, right? But I think to your point, I think the portion that you cited talks particularly about, you know, even the appearance, right? And so we've worked on that in different ways, right? The deadly force incidents are investigated through an alternative process on the criminal side. We talked today about how we're consolidating the review of use of force incidents and complaints, as well as other internal investigations within the same office to have more consistency across the board there. But I think one of the things that's clear in the report is how the union bargaining unit stacks up against other cities in Ohio, and I did think that was notable. But at the reality of this is that the way in which we engage with the union is a relationship with two parties, right? And so we are not in a position to force the union to be different. This is not the union's report, right? I appreciate Union President Lucy being here and engaging in the process, right? And I will leave it for him to share the union's perspective on this, just like I will leave it to our police auditor. Thank you for being here, sir, to share his office's perspective on it, or community stakeholders to share their perspective on it. I don't anticipate that everyone will agree on every last piece, but I do think we will be committed to working with every partner around this and listening to their opinions.
One more quick question.
I think we're going to go to others,
Okay.
and then we'll come back
Thank
to you.
you.
And I didn't recognize you, Dave, because you didn't have your Fox 8 windbreaker.
Oh, that's right.
Spectrum?
The report stated this isn't PERF's first time here. Can you give us any information on the 2011 report that was recommended? Were recommendations done? Anything happened with those recommendations?
Yes, thank you for the question. When I started on city council, that report was something that I went back to. And if you look at that report, it's broader than just use of force, right? It was kind of a general assessment of the department. So a lot of what it dealt with was about kind of organizational structure. And that's something we're now currently right now in the middle of a police department staffing study, and which covers a lot of those things. There were changes that came out of that department, particularly around shifts, around, again, how some of the organizational structure worked. And there were a couple of things that related to body-worn cameras and use of force. But this is, I think, to my understanding, the first time we have done a deep dive comprehensive review, particularly on the issue of use of force.
I just had, you had mentioned the establishment of a critical incident review board. Do you have an idea of what that might, it sounds really interesting to me. Do you have an idea of what that might look like or how that might be formed?
Yes. So, the PERF had a number of ideas here that they shared and are detailed in the report. What I'll say is that we did have an opportunity to observe via Zoom a version of this in Baltimore, Maryland, and observe as they walk through kind of a debrief of a number of different cases. And it was interesting how it works. As I think our chief of safety said, we have a firearms review board that currently exists. I think this is a little bit more broader and stronger and more robust to ensure that every section of the department is kind of getting those lessons back and those feedback loops are being closed, so that if there's a lesson, that the same lesson goes back to training or to patrol or to internal affairs, et cetera, right? And I think, part of that is also, figuring out if any other entities are needed as part of that, external to the department. But I think we are going to work hard to put that together. But again, you'd probably, that's one of the things that, we didn't do overnight, because that's something where we probably need to take what's being done in a couple other cities and kind of acronize it and make sure it works with our system.
In the report, it noted that quite a few, in a lot of the meetings with Akron police personnel, that they were reluctant for the report to deviate much from the Graham standard. How does that square with your goal of that, with Graham being a floor?
I think that one of the things, and I mentioned that this resonated with me, and Chief, I don't know if this is something you want to weigh in on as well. I think that, this idea of clear expectations, right? And, most of us do not walk around carrying the HR handbook of our organization, right? And most of us are not doing this work of officers each and every day. I think that, what's important is that when there's an established practice, and the Graham standard, has been the standard across many departments, across criminal law for a long time. When you change something, people want to know, okay, then what is the standard going to be and how's it going to be applied? And understanding how that will work and what impact it will have on them, right? And so I think what I'm hearing is that we need to make sure that we have clear expectations, right? And that's kind of how I've thought to approach it. Chief, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, so I can answer that. I think actually the mayor did a really good job answering that. I think our officers want to make sure there's clarity of policy. They get trained on what the policy is and they know what the expectations are, right? The Graham factors will always be there when we talk about criminal civil litigation, but if we can make policy that has different carve-outs on it, and when we do that, they want to understand what that looks like. If there's a violation, is it retraining? So those are things we still need to work through as we go through that. They just want clarity, right? They're in very high stress situations that are fast evolving, quickly occurring, lots of times with very violent people with mental health challenges. They don't have time to go back and look at a book. They need to make sure they understand that there's clarity on what's going on there and understand how that's going to be handled when we do it. So I think that's best for that. Yep, I'll go with it.
Doug?
Can you walk me through the logistics of those folks actually doing it? Like how many folks were here? And I know like University of Akron was intended to be part of this and I know
Yep.
they are.
Yeah.
And then also I know that they turned in a draft report prior to this. How's the draft different from last year?
Absolutely. So a couple of things. We began this process in the fall of 2024, began discussing and looking at this, and selected PERF in 2025. I think they detail in their report the different entities that they engaged with, but they did an awful lot of engagement, both internal to the department and externally. We had an engagement working group of external stakeholders who helped us kind of brainstorm stakeholders to reach out to. And again, PERF did an awful lot of work around that. Happy to get you more information beyond what's listed in that intro. From there, I think PERF kind of digested all of that. They I know we had a long meeting in December where they kind of shared some of their initial thoughts and started walking through some of these concepts like the critical incident review board, the importance of the sergeants, kind of just talking through these things kind of conceptually. And then the draft, we can get you the date on which the draft was provided, and the draft is available as public record. I can tell you that it's not, at least in my opinion, substantially different. There aren't things on the cutting room floor that we said we can't do and asked them to change. There are a couple of places where I think there are a couple of places where we thought maybe these 3 recommendations could be one recommendation or things like that, or if we saw factual issues that we wanted to mention. But then they provided us with a final report about what was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So that's the process.
So the city had involvement in the final report?
We had the draft and we provided some comments on the draft, and then they provided with this final report. Anyone else who hasn't asked a first question? Okay. Oh, sorry, back here.
I was just wondering, you mentioned the aggressive approach you want to take in that first 6 months of implementation in these 5 categories. Do you know, are you going to try and roll all of those out at once as kind of this big, broad approach, or are you going to take those, kind of tackle them one at a time? What does that first 6 months really look like?
I think the policy things are some of the kind of things that can most easily move forward, but maybe I'll let Craig and Chief Harding speak to that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the 40 of the recommendations are centered around revisions or additions to existing procedure, right? We're not adding a new procedure. As Mayor and Chief have mentioned, we have consolidated our 3 force-related procedures into one document. And then again, the report does touch on revisions and additions, minor ones, to a couple other procedures, including our body-worn camera procedure. But because because most of those recommendations all relate to existing, procedures, that's what gives us the incentive here to drop a second policy package before the end of the year, take the time over the next 6 months, start developing some training around those, new revisions and additions, and then that way we can satisfy a really large portion of the recommendations by the end of the year with a second policy package.
Chief, do you want to say anything else about the implementation team?
Yeah, so we have an executive implementation team that's led by Chief of Public Safety Craig Morgan. Deputy Chief Miller will run it from the police department. We'll have a captain, somebody from internal, our UPSA, somebody from training, and our union president will be part of that. It's kind of the executive group internally for us. And then we're going to have different breakout groups. Like they talk about a RAP procedure and some others. I envision we'll have a different group of people to be help working that and working through that group. We mentioned training. As we roll out new things, it's imperative that we give training before we roll that out. So again, we're consistent and clear expectations of what that looks like. So that's kind of our plan moving forward.
One point I just wanted to mention, Doug, I forgot to address. You mentioned University of Akron, and certainly, we've discussed throughout this process their role that we kind of always envisioned would be particularly around implementation. So as PERF has conducted the report, we've kept the University of Akron and their criminal justice department updated around it. We've had positive meetings with them, kind of talking about what their role will be around implementation, particularly their strengths around kind of the concepts of organizational change, and also their roles around data analysis. So there are two areas that we think we will work with them around the implementation. So it is our intent for them to be a part of that.
Chief, I'd like to start with you on this one. One point in the report, and it's in bold, points out that Akron Police appears to not take any of the Office of the Police Auditor's recommendations seriously because of the volume of all of them. Will these recommendations be treated differently?
That's true. You say these recommendations, the ones from the PERF report?
Yes.
I think I started with that. Absolutely. Crystal clear. We plan on working to implement these. And I do think we've worked with the auditor's office on several recommendations in the past as well. The PERF report talks about the volume of those. I think it also kind of gives us a roadmap to make sure we work together so we can come together and kind of identify the most high stake ones and make sure we work to implement those. But I led with that. I'll say it again. We absolutely plan on working to implement what's recommended in the PERF report.
And if I can just follow up with that, to that point, I think, this is a new function, this independent accountability process with the office and the board. And I think from my perspective, right, and PERF does have some strong language around, I think, how to improve that process and that communication. I think that we have this foundation, and now it is up to us to really kind of level up, right? And so we look forward to working in partnership with the Auditor's Office and the Oversight Board. And that's why I particularly wanted to note that, a number of the areas in which there are recommendations, including the recommendation around head strikes being implemented today, are places where over the past 2 years the auditor has uplifted these issues with regard to review of specific incidents. And in my view, always this report has not been about creating a redundant system. It's been about, in many cases, the auditor's office has given us the what through these individual reviews, and PERF in some ways helped us with kind of the how of implementing. And so that's how I view it, but I view it as, a role in which we have to continue committing to building what that relationship looks like with an independent accountability mechanism. That's not always going to be straightforward. It's not always going to be easy, but we're committed to doing that work.
You speak about accountability. The report stated in 2024, the city agreed to a process that the mayor would respond to OIPA's recommendations within 45 days or give an explanation for declining. How has that been successful for you? Has it been successful, and will you continue with that process through the new implementations?
Yeah, and this is actually one of the areas that I wanted to be sure that they understood from the draft, right? We did come out with that 45-day commitment, and I think from my perspective, there are kind of two buckets of reports, right? There are reports where the the auditor's office concurs with the findings of internal affairs, but has additional recommendations. And there are reports that where the auditor disagrees with the findings and actually is requesting that we change those findings and say that there was a rule violation and implement discipline, right? And what I'll say is that we did find it difficult to respond within 45 days to all of those reports, right? And so what we've tried to do, and there's been a lot of dialogue around it, right? It's not that we were silent, right? And we can provide you with kind of a specific timeline of our responses and that kind of thing. But what we've tried to do now through, again, ongoing dialogue and partnership with the auditor's office is to really prioritize the immediate responses around the reports where there's disagreement and a request to actually change the discipline, right? Because there is a timeline under the union contract and otherwise that we want to make sure we get those handled and prioritize those. On the other reports where there's more advisory recommendations, but there isn't an instant disagreement about discipline, those are probably going to take more than 45 days. But again, this is actually a pretty good example of the fact that this is a new mechanism for the city. And so we have to make sure that we have the capacity, both within the administration and within the police department, to be able to respond in a timely fashion. And so part of that was trying to work on agreeing to change with the police union around the timeline for pre-disciplinary hearing in cases in which new information comes up, right? Which could include new information coming up through the auditor's process, right? And so we have been trying to work to find solutions to that, and it is certainly our intent to, again, collaborate and work as well together as we can. But again, this is a new partnership, a new institution, and we want to, there are going to be some growing pains with it. We have tried to be very communicative through that and prioritize responses.
Mayor, just your thoughts about another observation of the report here that says that the Citizens Police Oversight Board's effectiveness is inherently constrained because the charter amendment did not grant it meaningful enforcement authority over its recommendations.
Look, I will say, as someone who was part of the push to create issue 10, that and you can go back and pull the tape, a charter amendment cannot change the union contract, right? And so changes to the union contract have to be bargained for. We have worked very hard through the last union negotiation to try to make sure that we are creating the strongest possible structure that we can to have a successful department. And a lot of that was discussions about kind of the balance between labor and management rights, right? And I'm not going to kind of get in here and walk through each tiny piece of the negotiations. But what I can say is that, our desire is to create effective structures, and that has always, though, been clear that charter amendment cannot do something that the union agreement itself cannot do, and there are, and so yeah, I would just note that.
Will you talk a little bit about City Council's role in this? What's going to happen Monday? Do they need to sign off on any of these recommendations?
Yeah, I would say, obviously we want to make sure that we're working in partnership with Akron City Council, and so we're going to do that presentation. But again, this is a pretty substantial report. We want to give people an opportunity really to digest it and to really look at it closely. Like I said, most of the policy changes, right, can be made through the police administration and the city administration. Where the involvement of Akron City Council will be very important is particularly around the budget and the resource questions, right? And so this has been an ongoing point of discussion. So during our operating budget process, we talked about this. We talked about how we had a $500,000, $500,000 really placeholder in the budget for implementation. I would imagine that the amount needed may well be substantially more than that, but that was kind of our best guess at the time. And so we will continue to have kind of those budgetary discussions with council, but we want to make sure that we're able to provide appropriate training, and that we're able to set up whatever kind of structures and mechanisms that we need. So, the critical incident review board, that, again, is a new structure and new function, or a pretty significant expansion of an existing function. And so that may require more research. So I would say that is primarily going to be where those discussions will happen. But certainly there are a lot of stakeholders that have a role in this process, whether it be city council, whether it be the union, whether it be community stakeholders, whether it be our auditor's office. And so, we intend to continue engaging with all of them on it. Doug?
So my understanding is the new policies in effect today incorporate some of the PERF recommendations.
Yes.
My civilian read of it appears it could be more permissive of force than the old one. The phrase, any use of force that is not necessary, proportional, and objectively reasonable, and does not reflect reasonable de-escalation. Only in those instances is that inappropriate. It seems to me the wording of that has to be all of those instances as opposed to any of those. We just have a shared understanding of the difference between the two.
Yeah, what I would say is I'm happy to look at the language and follow up with you. I certainly don't think the intent is to be more permissive, but without having the language directly in front of me, I don't want to speak to that.
Now that the report is out and you all have a timeline, what does success look like and how, when is that going to be addressed?
I think success looks like implementing these recommendations, and it means showing people how we do that, working on helping our officers to understand what these recommendations mean, and also our community members. And, at a basic level, from a policy perspective, but then kind of from that training and mindset perspective. And, I think there is, like I said, we're going to move with intentionality and resolve and deliberateness, right? We are not going to do this slowly. But I think it also means continuing to listen. And, we should not say, this report is not the end all be all, right? This report, it's it is a series of recommendations or a roadmap that we intend to take, that we believe will improve our department. But we will continue to listen and engage with our community to hear what they want to see when it comes to public safety across many. This is a report is about a specific issue, right? It's not about every issue that our officers deal with or our department deals with, right? And so we are going to continue that work of engaging around that. But I think, again, going back to your question, really helping people see how we are implementing the recommendations and what that means for how it shows up in people's daily lives. Anybody else? All right, any final thoughts that maybe you have?
Thank you.
All right, I want to thank everyone for being here today.